Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today is a beautiful day. I did get a chance to get out and do a walk. I just didn't film during my walk because it got really intense, okay? It's about 80 plus degrees out here today. So I stepped out of the house and I was like, the birds were chirping. I mean, everything is green. Everybody has cut their lawns. It's very beautiful outside. So I got out, on my little adventure, my walk. And as I started to walk a little bit, I was like, like, this is really warmer than usual. The last couple of times I actually came out and walked, it was very cold, right? But no, this time it was actually it was starting to warm up. So instead of me going into the video, I said, let me test this out a little bit more. So I continued to walk. And it seemed like the more I walk, the hotter it got. And I was like, oh, I see. I'm going to have to cut this short. I'm going to have to cut it short because I was like, I don't know if I'm hydrated enough for this activity. Like, this needs to be some kind of inside activity or something. But I was like, no, I'm already out here. Let me hit some of these hills. So I hit two of my main hills. And after that, I was like, I gotta go in. It's really hot. You can see it in my face. I'm sweating. You don't normally see me sweat like this because the weather's been cold, right? But yeah, I'm out here sweating bullets. And so I ended my walk. But as I'm sitting here, I'm actually looking at my dogwood tree. And so it has come into bloom. I have white flowers everywhere and they're so pretty. And so I looked up the spiritual meaning of dogwood, and it said for hope, resilience of love after suffering. And so then it started to talk about dogwood, the tree that Christ died on. And so I said, well, let me look up the origins of dog trees and where they usually grow, right? And so no, not over in the Middle East. These don't grow there. It was like, oh, that's a folklore that, that's what happens. And I'm like, yeah, I knew that couldn't be true. But interesting enough, like it said, love, resilience of love after suffering. So something about that. And since there wasn't much of a spiritual meaning like other trees, like my maple tree, I got my own kind of spiritual meaning from this dogwood. And since all the other trees already came, and there is, hold on, let's see if I can get them. Those always be with the red chest, always be in our yards. Look at him. Hello, guy. They always come here. Hi. Okay. Do a little bird watching here. Okay. Enough bird watching. He actually got closer, right? But I told you they come out here. We be seeing these birds, and I seen a robin also in the backyard on the trampoline. Bright red, bright as day, beautiful bird. He looked hungry too, like he was like real stocky and big. So I'll probably look up the meaning of those later, but not right now. But my own spiritual meaning of the dogwood tree, like I said, since it blooms kind of late, when after everything else has come to bloom, it's maybe that could be a message in that, something that someone probably felt like should have happened by now, didn't happen, but the time is now. And so everything's coming, in its timing, in divine timing. When you think something is supposed to happen, it's not always. One thing I learned about, when Source does something, it's always on time. You probably don't know why that time when you wanted it to happen didn't happen. There's all kinds of things, that he was probably trying to navigate through or navigate you through before you can get to, where he needs you to be. But this, it's always, in divine timing, and it'll happen when it's supposed to happen, and you'll know, because you'll be so happy and you'll forget about the times and stuff that you had waited for and all those things like that. Okay, so and it leads me to also think about now. It's like in the world, like we've already been through so much. We're talking about in the past wise, right? From where humanity has came all the way till now. And the reason why this is allowed to happen now, because on this earth, God has already touched down his warriors. They are the ones that are not going to be tricked, by the matrix to actually carry forth this breaking of this mental slavery that, we have allowed, many years of tradition, many years of conditioning, to put this hold, on us as a collective. And so, hold on. I had this on a stand, but this stand ain't working. Hold on. Okay. So it allowed us to get this far, but Source did not bring us this far only to come this far. So we're here by purpose, for a reason, in good timing. Like I said, there are some heavy hitters that are down here right now. Now, when it comes to the issues of the spirit, and dealing with those things, there are so many spiritual leaders, spiritual guidance people that are standing up and helping to come against this illusion. Okay, being able to actually be the ones to do that is not easy, because you're actually we call them NPCs, right? NPCs and non-player characters, the ones who have been conditioned for the program, conditioned for the game. The illusion is so heavy upon them that they're willing to fight to stay in positions of slavery, you know what I'm saying? Of mental, imprisonment with this whole thing. And even though some of them do not see that what's happening is actually imprisonment, they don't see it because they have been conditioned not to see the walls. Okay? They've been conditioned. They don't see the walls. If you tell them, hey, about the things that are going on in the system, they will tell you, oh, well, you have to go in there, you need to work harder and make more money and beat the system. They'll tell you some weird stuff like that. They are so conditioned to the system since school. Kids have been conditioned since, going to school, 12 years of school, and they will actually fight, for this system. No, the system isn't wrong. I just need to work harder. And you can clearly see that they keep moving the goalposts. I even see it now. Now people are getting trust, trust funds and stuff. I mean, trust, living trust, and all these, revocable trust and all that. To them, at first, that was their game plan. They created that system for themselves, the rich, to keep them rich, to protect them, and hoping that you don't find out about it, because they always have to play, keep their things separate from how you do things. They bank on you playing by all the rules, while they, escape all the rules. And so even if you go in and get a trust, you still not even safe getting the trust, because, they've even went in and, I'm going to say, complicated the situation, so you can't always, it's almost like you can't do what we do, you can't do, how we do. Almost kind of like, who is that? Wesley Snipes. How he got in trouble for tax evasion and stuff like that, or whatever. And what happened was, he actually was doing what the rich and wealthy, how they do. But they have it where specific people can do it and other people can't. You're not supposed to be hip to this. You're not supposed to get on to this, because this is how we do it. Major corporations, at least 90% of these large corporations are cheating, in taxes, and they're not putting in to society, and they're letting society take the bulk load, and putting all their money in. You pay into the system, and we use your money, and we use you, and they're starving the system. But they don't want you to know how they really run their systems, because if you were to learn how to do it like them, then, it wouldn't be that few, the few rich on the top and everybody else at the bottom. They like to keep that pyramid scheme thing going, only the ones at the top get the money. And and that's how they keep everybody else small. They're not really into others, making money, and they don't want you to learn their way of being a criminal. And that's pretty much how they are, So they don't want you to learn their way, how they do it. But whatever it is wrong, and it's always cheating the system or whatever, because they create the systems, and then they create their own loopholes. And then we say, oh, well, we got to get in and we got to learn the system and do as they do. And no, the system is faulty. We, as spiritual people, because of who we are, we can't do people like they do people, because they're cold-hearted. They don't have they're soulless, okay? They operate like that. But you're not a soulless being. So your thing isn't trying to get over on other people, or trying to step on people's heads and things like that, or whatever. So the best thing, if we really do care about people, let's collapse the false systems, okay, and let them skip off and run how they're gonna run, but create a just system for ourselves so that things could balance out, because things will, believe it or not, things will balance out once we untangle our energy from theirs. That's what happened last year. Last year was considered like a jubilee year, but I know some people don't believe in those type of things, but it's a release of debt, release of for some, back in the day, used to be from prisoners for certain things. Like if you was a slave to somebody, supposed to be a release of that, and release of from your oppressors and all that kind of stuff. That actually happened. I was reading in my last video, I was talking, I wasn't talking, I wrote it down in the video, talking about last year was also the year Chinese New Year of the snake, the wooden snake. And even though bad events happened, also the meaning of a snake is transformation, and the shedding off of the old. And also I read, when a snake is shedding off, it also sheds off bacteria and parasites. But in this case, we didn't really shed them off. They, act like they are shedding us off. But either way, there was a separation of something old. But we have to recognize that the type of system that we were connected to. And so when we are taken away, from that, we're separating our energy so that we can rebalance our energy and continue to up our frequency, right? And you don't understand that you can't bind yourself to an imbalanced frequency. And then you think of the word frequency, how frequent also something occurs, how frequent something happens when it talks about waves and stuff like that. And how many waves are able to move within, a set, within a timing, you know what I'm saying? Some move super fast, some move super slow, the length of the waves. And so us being connected to people who behave in those type of ways, has been keeping us on a low frequency, energetic wise, with some demonic people into a demonic system. That's why in this system, it would never work. The universe would never allow it to work, because the universe is about balance. And it's not going to let us continue in a false built system. Okay? And so, even though they so-called thinking they cut us off, that's fine. It had to happen either way. And there is no easy way to have done that. Okay? And so it's almost like there's a scripture that talks about Moses and let my people go, and so the people are able to be free. But then when they get out into the wilderness is where there is really nothing, right? They have to, are pretty much forced to build from scratch. And so, to tell you the truth, building from scratch can suck. But building from scratch can also be the best thing you can ever do, because when you build from scratch, you're not building upon something that you don't know what you've already built, building on, like for instance, we see houses being built today, and you find out that a lot of these houses are being built upon a lot of cheap materials, a lot of bad building instructions and things like that, they're not lasting, as long as the ones that were built on hard, real, material. Now with this, because we're building brick by brick, we know the ins and outs. We know that, the material of which something is made. Not only that, we know it's being built on sturdy ground. It's not being built on sand. We know that we are building with clear instructions. We ain't trying to make rules and stuff with loopholes and things like that to try to undermine people and try to manipulate people. Kind of like a narcissistic system is built. It's built on control and manipulation. And how can a society thrive like that? There are actually other places in the world, that are doing well and that are thriving, and they don't have a manipulative system. Okay. We can have the same too. We just got too many people who want control, and those people are not very smart because they are binding themselves to other people who want to control them. And then so there's not any real movement that's being made, and these people are not healthy, in their mindsets. So how can they be, help us do anything? Okay. So, anywho, so I know, many would not be too excited to just have to rebuild. I just saw something, it was real funny on the internet about the Amish. They was like, well, people aren't laughing at the Amish now because they're clickety clacking right past the gas stations. You're right, because they built a system that's not, who cares who's the government? They built their systems between themselves. So they got their land, they got everything they need. Electricity, who cares about electricity prices? We got lamps, and we got other ways, to keep us warm in the winter, and we got other ways. And we're looking at the Amish as very smart people right now. Okay. And so it's funny how people will laugh and make fun of certain things, but give it time. It will vindicate itself. The Amish definitely, not that they needed any vindication. I'm just saying, look at people now like, the Amish have a good idea. I shop actually, in a Amish market that's near us, and their food is really good. And I've been going there for a couple of years. So really enjoy going to those type of markets, and, they make money selling, their things, and they survive. They do actually more than survive. They actually do good. They look healthy. They look strong. They're not worried about anything that's going on in this world. Minding their business, right? So same here. The only reason why they are energetically, this narcissistic system is energetically thriving is because of our energy. So they try to cut everybody off. You know what I'm saying? That's fine. The goal is not to play the back and forth game with them. I'm telling you, if you're dealing with a narcissistic energy, you don't play games with them, because you can tell me something. They got games all day. They got games for days. And your energy is too precious for something like that, and too valuable. Matter of fact, they feed off of your reaction every time they do something stupid. Okay? So, best thing is detach. we go on a attack strike, or, stop eating them somehow, cut them off, so that we could begin to build something worthwhile and healthy for ourselves, and the universe will support it. Matter of fact, it will thrive because it's not a corrupt system. The universe is for equality and for balance. It's actually just insane to just be begging a narcissistic system. Can we stay in your system? Can we just work together on this? Can we just be together in harmony? No, they like domination, control, destruction, and we don't want to be a part of those cycles. So we are actually ending cycles, cutting that energy off to let them be destructive as they want to be, because they're already failing at it. So, anywho, whatever it is, the time is now, because we are the ones who were able to awaken from it. The older generation were the ones that endured the suffering. And we thank the older generation and the ancestors for bringing us this far. In order for us to go further, we got to carry that torch, But that's what we're doing right now. And so this had to happen because there are specific people who are in place. God's people. There are a lot of people that are not going to be able to receive a message like this because they mentally have been conditioned to be NPCs. So anything that tells them to move away, it's like, it's not about actually just moving away. Yes, that was a foundation that was laid, that worked for us for a long time. But now we are expanding upon what we know. It goes further. Okay? There's more. And I know a lot of people like to believe there isn't no more. It is. Yes, there is. Okay? And so in order to experience that, you're going to have to expand and open in a way that you haven't opened up before because of the conditioning that was put on us. We're lifting that conditioning, that mindset off. Yes. So late blooming, it may seem late, but it's really on time. Everything is happening and going accordingly. Also continue to, when it comes to thinking towards the future, I know we're supposed to be present. We're supposed to be now. Yes. But we're thinking better for ourselves. We see better. We see the divine moving in our favor and giving us fresh new ideas and concepts so that we can build, for our children. Okay? So that's it. So I'll talk to you again. Bye.